Welcome to Crimson Drive. It's time to start your engines.
In the beginning was Daytona.
Here we go.
The birthplace of speed, the launch pad of legends, the great American race.
Oh, they're in the wall.
It's always been,
Keep digging, stay in the gap.
and will always be, the proving ground for greatness.
Let's go, boys!
Every driver looking to be remembered. Every fan looking for something they'll never forget. Secure your seats now at Daytona500.com.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover, glad to welcome you back to our Tuscaloosa studios, where we get to stay at home over this weekend for Alabama basketball and football for a final time this season. We'll start going through everything coming up on the show, thanks to our friends at RJ Young. RJ Young is the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. They've given us this smartboard to go through everything coming up on the show, and they also sponsor our headlines for today. First things first, we'll be visiting with one of 23 seniors that Alabama will honor coming up on Senior Day, Seth McLaughlin, Crimson Tide center, in a one-on-one conversation. Then we'll hear from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Nick Saban, from his Wednesday press conference with Coach's Checklist. We'll be joined by Eli Gold for his Hey Coach preview as he looks ahead to what's coming up later tonight at Baumhower's with Hey Coach and the Nick Saban Show. And then we visit with the voice of the Chattanooga Mocs, Jim Reynolds, to get a great scouting report on Alabama's opponent for this week. Last but not least, we'll go inside to Coleman Coliseum, take a look at our Courtside camp highlights from Chris Stewart and Brian Passing from the thrilling win for Alabama, getting over 100 points again on Tuesday against South Alabama. Getting into our headlines, starting with Alabama football again. One final time at Bryant-Denny Stadium this season for the Crimson Tide, as Alabama will be home against UTC for another 11 a.m. start time. The Crimson Tide Sports Network coverage will start at 8 a.m. on the radio, and we will have Senior Day festivities prior to the ball game as well. Alabama has never lost to Chattanooga, trying to make it to 14-0. This will be the first time Alabama's played the Mocs since 2016, a game that Coach Saban referenced even in the press conference. Chattanooga played pretty tough that year with an NFL loaded roster for the Crimson Tide, so Alabama's got to be ready to go. Speaking of ready to go, tonight we need a lot of fans at Coleman Coliseum at 6 p.m. for Crimson Tide women's basketball against South Florida. South Florida, one of the best teams on Alabama's schedule all season long. They're the reigning American Conference champions, made it to the second round of the NCAA tournament last year, so a great test coming up tonight as Alabama wraps up its season opening homestand. The Crimson Tide will not be at home the rest of the month in women's basketball, as Sunday will start some time on the road with a 1 o'clock tip-off at Little Rock, and then they will be at the Katy, Texas tournament following that around Thanksgiving weekend. Now, the men's basketball team, also their time at home starting to wind down this month as they were able to pick up a 102-46 win over South Alabama. Really impressive performance by the Tide, over 100 points again. First time since 1956-1957. Alabama started a year with 3 straight games over 100 points. That group was able to do it 4 times. Let's see if the Crimson Tide can match it coming up tomorrow against Mercer. 7 p.m. tip time. Our radio coverage will start at 6 p.m. from Stipe Lounge, presented by Royal Furniture at Coleman Coliseum. Make sure you come in right at the front entrance and say hello to Chris Stewart, Brian Passing, Tom Stipe, and myself, as we have the most comfortable college basketball pregame show in the nation. Soccer team, again, getting ready for the SEC tournament against the UNC Tar Heels. The NCAA tournament will be the second round after Alabama picked up a great win this past week against Western Carolina. So Roll Tide to Wes Hart and the Crimson Tide soccer team. And speaking of more soccer content, Coach Hart will be joining us tonight on Hey Coach, as we'll hear Eli talk about coming up in a few moments. Also, some great honors for Alabama cross country as Victor Kiprop was named the men's SEC Runner of the Year. Alabama has won this award now 3 straight years. Elliot Kipsang back in 2021, and then Kiprop has won this honor the past 2 seasons. And Roll Tide, Doris Lemon-Gole named the SEC Women's Runner of the Year, the Freshman Runner of the Year. Just a great performance by Doris to round out a first campaign in Crimson. Also coming up on Saturday, the Crimson Tide Sports Network is proud to host Champions Lane at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Again, just outside the Walk of Champions, the Tuska statue. This is where it all happens, coming up on Saturday morning, as we are going to have a great time leading up to Alabama against Chattanooga. Make sure you come by the Bud Light Backyard stage and hear some music from Tarred and Feathered. They'll be playing from 9 o'clock until 10:30. The team will arrive at the Walk of Champions at 9 o'clock, so that's perfect timing for Tarred and Feathered. Also, Also, grab some autographs. The Alabama men's golf team will be there, as well as gymnast Makari Doggett, Natalia Pollock, as well as Ella Burgess. So some great opportunities there, and also some interactive displays. World of Beer will be here as well with a great display to make sure you're a food truck available to get some food and have some fun before the ball game. Don't forget about Legends Lounge for everyone 21 and up. And again, it'll be Alabama against Chattanooga coming up at an 11 a.m. start time, but Champions Lane will be open, and again, having music in the morning. It will be a fun time for sure as we prepare for the final home game of the season. With that in mind, Seth McLaughlin preparing to wear the Crimson for one final time inside Bryant-Denny Stadium as the senior center joins us this week as one of our 2 one-on-one conversations to detail the progress that he and the offensive line have made so far this year. Seth, Roll Tide, how have you felt about your play this season overall?
Roll Tide, it's been a fun season. It's been fun seeing the way we've progressed, so really looking forward to keep on going.
I think the last time we caught up with you one-on-one, it was right before the season began. Just over the last few weeks, how has this offensive line kept taking steps forward?
I think communication's getting a lot better. Even throughout the season, we've had some different pieces in there. Now just building chemistry. We've had a few games under our belt, the starting 5, so we're moving in the right direction.
Certainly are, and for you specifically, consistent snaps back to the quarterback, Jalen Milroe. What's led to good consistency there?
Just continued work on it. I've switched up my grip a little bit. Just, we've gotten the communication down a little bit better. Just getting on the same page about the procedure, and I think that's really helped.
Is it tough to make adjustments like that during the year?
Not really. It's, as a center, it's what's expected of you. And, early on in the season, I wasn't doing a good enough job, but just continued work at it. It's gotten better.
What has Jaden Roberts meant to this offensive line?
He's meant a lot. He comes in and he's a maniac on Saturdays, and he's a high energy guy, and he's a freak of nature. So when he gets his hands on people, they're kind of done. So it's been nice having that to the right of me.
Absolutely, and to the left of you, a lot of steps forward there.
Yeah, the whole offensive line's coming together. Coach Wilford's done a great job this year, just continuing on improving our techniques and fundamentals and just the way we play.
What's most important in your preparation with Jalen Milroe week to week?
Just making sure we're on the same page. There's certain plays he'll check in and out of, and just making sure that we're on the same page together. And I'm trying to think about what he wants, and he knows what I want, so we can just communicate that to the rest of the guys.
What's it like to see his confidence kind of grow and build as the year has gone on?
It's been awesome. He's always been a super confident guy, and he always takes the steps to prepare the right way, and now just it's starting to pay off.
Really has. And for you, the preparation you do against Alabama's defensive line in practice, how have you seen that pay off in SEC games?
The guys we go against on Monday through Thursday are really good, and it's really a big advantage when you're going against guys like that. And even our scout team guys, they give incredible looks. They're really hard to block, so you kind of just have to think like there's no reps off. There's no reps off in practice, so you kind of just have to give it your all Monday through Thursday, and that really pays off on Saturday.
Can you believe this is going to be the last home game for Alabama this year at Bryant-Denny Stadium?
It's flown by. It's been a crazy year, and I really had a good time this year because, it just seems like it's such a process to win each game, and it's kind of been awesome. Just everybody pouring what they have into each game at a time, and not really focusing on, what's going to happen later on in the season. It's just what's here, what's now, and how can we do that?
What did the crowd support mean to you, specifically with the Tennessee and the LSU games and the atmospheres we had?
I mean, I know as a center, when it gets loud, it gets hard. And to cause problems on their offense when the crowd gets loud, it's invaluable. So when you hear that we're breaking records in the sound barrier, it's just not the sound barrier, but when you hear that we're breaking records, with the decibel level, it's awesome to hear.
It has been a lot of fun. Well, Seth McLaughlin, we look forward to seeing you play against Chattanooga coming up this Saturday. Best of luck with everything ahead. Roll Tide.
Yes, sir. Roll Tide.
NASCAR is kicking off the 2024 regular season with the Daytona 500 on February 18th, 2024. Don't miss out on this bucket list event at one of NASCAR's most iconic tracks. More than 100,000 fans will be on the edge of their seat as they watch drivers race for the win at nearly 200 miles per hour. Bring your whole family to this once-in-a-lifetime event and get ready to experience one of the best atmospheres in sports. Purchase your tickets today at Daytona500.com. So that's the message from Seth McLaughlin representing Alabama players. How about the message from Crimson Tide head coach Nick Saban? He met with the media for one final time this week on Wednesday with his press conference. Here's Coach's checklist from Coach Saban getting ready for Chattanooga.
So, we're trying to emphasize with the players. They've responded, fairly well, but the number one focus, this week needs to be on this game. We need to take care of business in this game. You know, I got out the 2016 game, which was the last time we played these guys, and the score was like 3-0 or something halfway through the second quarter, and we were behind. So, and just about all the players out there playing were, you know, really good players, most of whom played in the NFL. So, having your mind right, having the right focus on what you want to accomplish and what you want to do, having the right passion for how bad you want to do it, and having the mental toughness to, you know, handle tough and difficult situations, handle them hard, I think is really, really important. You know, we need to focus on what we need to do to take care of business in this game. And, you know, the players have been pretty good about that so far. Jermaine Burton is fine. He's practiced. Jalen and Devontae are both, you know, moving around, running, rehabbing, getting close to being ready to practice and play. But I'd say it's still pretty questionable as to whether they can make it for the game. If they can't practice tomorrow, then most of the time we don't, you know, if guys can't practice on Thursday, we don't think they're healthy enough to play in the game, but we'll see what comes of that tomorrow. Well, you know, Roy Dell's a great team guy. I mean, he's a really good special teams player, great character. I think he loves Alabama. He loves his teammates. He's a really good teammate. Been very productive every opportunity that he's gotten, whether it's to play running back or do something on special teams, be a kickoff returner. He's always the first one to step up. He's always got a smile on his face, and I think he's you know, a great example for guys that, you know, sort of persevere in their career and overcome obstacles and become very successful because of that, because I think that's probably one of the ingredients you need to have to be successful.
Coach Saban got to meet with the media last night. Tonight, he'll get to meet us here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network with Hey Coach and the Nick Saban Show at Baumhauer's Victory Grill at 6:30. Eli Gold is, of course, the host of the show, and then he'll be on the call for the Crimson Tide and the Chattanooga Mocs coming up on Saturday. Here's our weekly conversation with the voice of Alabama football, Eli Gold.
Crimson Tide clinched the SEC Western Division Championship. That's always special. But Roll Tide, sir.
Thank you. Roll Tide, Roger. And you're right. It's when the most recent conference or divisional champion is the same as the first, that's very nice. Of course, Alabama has been successful in the postseason and in the regular season for years and years and years. But yeah, you know, I wonder how many people who were celebrating after the Kentucky game, how many of them were so very concerned after the Texas game. It's amazing how the season has changed and how the fans' approach to this Crimson Tide team has changed, but the players have changed. They're the same human beings, but they're this far down the road now that they've gotten much better. Confidence is there. The Jalen Milroe of today was not the Jalen Milroe of you know, the season opener. So it's coming along nicely.
It really is, and Alabama got off to such a good start against Kentucky. The offense was really firing in all cylinders. Just what are you seeing right now out of this Alabama offense, led by Tommy Reese, who was also named a semifinalist for the Broyles Award?
Yeah, well, they're doing very, very well. I'll be very honest, I didn't know how well the offense would click, but you know, everybody's been zeroing in on the defense, and rightfully so. It's one of the best in America. But yeah, this team has really come along. The wide receivers have gained confidence. Milroe, as I say, has gained confidence. If the pass isn't there, he'll take off and run, and he's done that so very, very well. And oftentimes now the offensive line, which probably people would be fair to say that it might have been one of the Achilles early in the season, has now started to come into its own, and they threw some significant blocks and had a nice pocket to protect the quarterback against the Wildcats. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing. And of course, this weekend, I don't know what we'll see. You know, Chattanooga in their division, in the football championship subdivision, as they call it, They're good. They're nationally ranked, but clearly they're not Alabama.
Well, we get to be in Bryant-Denny Stadium one final time this season with this game coming up on Saturday against Chattanooga. The Crimson Tide trying to continue a great winning streak after the Texas loss. Just what has the home field advantage meant to this football team, especially with what we saw from some of the crowd support against Tennessee and LSU?
Well, that's the thing right there. You took my answer right away from me. We saw that from the Tennessee crowd, from the LSU crowd. Nick Saban has always talked about that on his radio show, on the Nick Saban show on Thursday nights. I don't want to say he begs for support, but he has certainly emphasized the need for the fans to step up, and they have. We've seen a greater number of penalties to the opponents because they're having trouble hearing and dealing with hand signals and whatever they're having to do. So yeah, it's been a solid step up. And of course, at home, it's a great ballpark. It's, as we all know, it's a stadium that's, most universities would love to have. So add that facility with the fans, and you've got a darn near unbeatable situation. Not totally, unfortunately, but darn near unbeatable.
You always enjoy Senior Day. I know we're looking forward to that coming up this Saturday.
Yeah, I do. It's nice. Now, of course, this year I'm not going down to the locker room before the game. Chris is doing that, but I've always liked going down, and I would make it a point to go up to the seniors and just say, "Hey, man, give us another one, and all the best to you. It's been an honor, calling your games." So yeah, it's very, very nice, and it's they are the people who make it happen. You and I, as good looking as we both are, we just can't create stuff. We have to report what we see. And, seeing it come from these seniors has really been outstanding, no doubt about it.
Definitely looking forward to what's coming up on Saturday. Again, Alabama against UTC before next week. We'll be on the road at Auburn for the Iron Bowl. But I know the focus is going to be this week on the radio show. Of course, what's coming up with the Mocs on Thursday or on Saturday in the ball game, but on Thursday night's show. Just what else can you tell us about what's ahead on Hey Coach and the Nick Saban show from Baumhauer's?
Well, I'm thrilled to have Wes Hart back on. I like Wes. He's the head coach for the soccer team, and the ladies are still in the tournament. So, that's wonderful to see. Anytime you can make it to the postseason, that's great. They've already beaten one team. They've now got another game coming up. So I'm looking forward to having Wes on. Charlie Potter from 24, well, it used to be 24/7 for him. Now it's Bama Online, that 3-on-3 owned entity. He's going to be with us. We'll talk about all that's going on at the university, but obviously zeroing in on football. And obviously Coach Saban will be with us as well. And, he's going to work hard, I'm sure, to keep everybody zeroed in on this game against Chattanooga and not drift. And I'll guarantee you this, I'm not going to ask him a question about Auburn. You don't need to, heck, if he's going to yell at his wife like he did the other day for looking ahead, and I say that in a nice way, but, we're going to concentrate on Chattanooga and talk. And, I was doing my Chattanooga chart here, and I've got it here by my side. They have so many players who have transferred in, not only from second or non-power 5 schools, but they've got a lot of guys. They got this one from Georgia Tech, this one from Tennessee, this one from here, this one from there, and they too. There's an offensive line that has a guy from Purdue, a guy from Houston. It's a guy. Griffin McDowell transferred from Florida. It's not the Chattanooga of your father's day. Now with the transfer portal and everybody moving around, these guys who are, in the group of 5 or what have you, they are not nearly as easily handled as they used to be. They're not Alabama. I'm not gonna, we're not gonna lie to our fans here, but it's not the UTC of back in the 70s and 80s. So it'll be an interesting ball game, and then hopefully nobody gets hurt, and then we can look ahead to what comes next week, which of course is Thanksgiving and the Iron Bowl.
In the beginning was Daytona, the great American race. Every driver looking to be remembered. Every fan looking for something they'll never forget. Secure your seats now at Daytona500.com.
Always fun to have a conversation with Eli Gold on Thursdays here on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. He'll be on the call for us coming up on Saturday against Chattanooga. Then right next door in the other booth, it'll be Jim Reynolds, the longtime voice of the Chattanooga Mocs. He joins us now for the other booth to give us a scouting report on UTC.
Jim Reynolds, who was telling me this was year 44, Jim, that you've been calling the Mocs. How's everything going?
Not too bad for a guy that's been around 120 years or whatever, 120 dog years maybe. So it's all good. Looking forward to the game.
Yeah, we're certainly looking forward to seeing one of the best teams in the SoCon this season come here to Bryant-Denny Stadium. If you could, just kind of take us through game by game the journey of this Chattanooga football team.
Well, they start out the year with a new quarterback, and so the first game lost to North Alabama, a team that hasn't had a whole bunch of success. So they kind of take a punch in the mouth in game number 1 of the season, which may eventually cost them a playoff game, losing that game, because it's a game that most people thought they would win. So they kind of right themselves, and they beat Kennesaw. They begin the conference schedule and reel off some wins. They've had a couple close games, lost to Western Carolina, nationally ranked team in FCS, on a last-second field goal as time expired. Lost to Furman late in the game in a contest. They kind of outplayed them, but made some mistakes. The thing for Chattanooga is they started, opening game of the season in September. They didn't get a bye week until last weekend. So they played 10 straight games. So they were a little worn down, and that bye week probably came at a good time. They're good. The quarterback that they've gotten, a transfer from UCLA, is really good. Probably a guy they wouldn't have gotten just out of high school, but he's taken command of the team, and he distributes the ball well and throws it pretty good. Their receiving core is good. So, yeah, they're pretty solid. And I'm not sure they're Alabama solid, but in the FCS level, it's a pretty good football team.
Yes, if you could just tell us about some of the playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. Who should we expect to see get a lot of playing time coming up on Saturday?
Well, let's start, on offense. The quarterback I mentioned was Chase Artopius, who's a junior. So far this year, he's thrown, I think, 18 touchdown passes, only 7 interceptions. And one of those guys, when you have a transfer, and we've seen this a lot on this level, when you have a transfer, especially, he was a guy that didn't play at all at UCLA, took 5 snaps in his entire history, highly recruited out of high school. He was that number 5 or 6 quarterback at UCLA. So, wanted to play, wanted to get on the field. Chattanooga had an opening at quarterback. So they got Chase, and you never know how that's going to work out. And it's worked out really well. The thing for Chattanooga, they had one of the best running backs in the league, a kid by the name of Lynn Ford, who was one of those six-year senior guys, COVID senior guys, and he tore his ACL and tried to keep on going, couldn't play, but he was going to be a guy that was going to have 4,000 yards for his career, and then the injury ended that. So their running game's probably not where they thought it was going to be. So Alim's not going to be there and hasn't been the last several games. So a guy by the name of Gino Appleberry has taken over that spot. He's a transfer from Western Kentucky, and he's a good running back. He's just not what Alim Ford was. And their receivers have been really good. Guy by the name of Jamoy Mays from Griffin, Georgia, pretty good player. Javen Watley is a kid from Rockmart, Georgia, receiver, pretty good. And Sam Phillips from Cartersville, Georgia, is good as well. So the receiving core has really stepped up and gotten better. Quarterback's been good. Offensive line has given them a lot of protection. So they've done that. Probably haven't gotten as much out of the running game as they thought they were going to when the season began.
Then how about on the defensive side of the ball? What's the strength of this Mocs defense?
Yeah, they've been hot and cold, just to be honest with you. There have been some days that they've been really dominant. And then there's some other days they can't get off the field. So Chattanooga is kind of known as a defensive team, but maybe that's flipped around a little bit this year. One of their edge rushers, Jay Person, has really been good. He's a local guy from Cleveland, Tennessee, and has done well in the sack department, really well. Gets good pressure sometimes. Transfer from Appalachian State, and he's a guy that can cause some havoc a little bit. They really feel like they're 6, 7, 8 guys deep on that defensive line, so they'll substitute a lot there. Guy by the name of Quay Wiggles from Atlanta has played well. And Marlon Taylor, as a nose tackle, has played pretty well also. One of those nationally ranked guys. Their defensive backfield secondary is pretty good, and the linebacking core is pretty good. So the defensive line, if they can get some pressure, they do have some depth there in that defensive line, and they've done a pretty good job for the most part. Sometimes if you have a good running game, sometimes they can get out physical a little bit, but it's not a bad unit. Just every so often, if someone has a really good running back, like we'll see against Alabama, sometimes it's tough for them to get off the field.
And then what can you tell us about the head coach, Rusty Wright? How has he kind of made this program his own as he is now in his 5th season in Chattanooga?
Well, I'm not going to date myself at all, but I covered Rusty when he was a player here. So I've known Coach Wright for a long time. So he played here. He was a tight end and then a center. So he wasn't very bright, a guy in the offensive line. What can I say? I know Rusty pretty well. When he graduated here, was an assistant coach, went away a couple of different spots. Was at Georgia State, then came back to Chattanooga when the head coaching job was open. Rusty's kind of an old school philosophy in the fact that, he wants to be physical. He's not going to put up with a lot. He's a believer if you run the football and stop the run, good things are going to happen for the most part. And I think he's one of those guys that's really honest with his players. Some would say brutally honest, every so often. But I think I think he has the respect of the team and the fact that he tells them the truth. Sometimes they don't want to hear it, but I think he expects a lot from his guys. And I think I think it's work hard, play hard. And I think they have worked hard for him. He'll celebrate with them a little bit. It's the old, I'll give you 24 hours to get over a win or get over a loss, that kind of thing. So he's been a guy that's kind of had Chattanooga in his bones, grew up in South Carolina, but like I said, played here, 2 different stints as an assistant coach. When the head coaching job came open, he was an assistant coach at Georgia State in Atlanta and got the head coaching job here. And now in his 5th year, so, he's done well, over 500 every year.
So we're getting ready for Saturday again, Chattanooga against Alabama. Just what's the excitement level around the program getting ready for an opportunity like this to get to play inside Bryant-Denny Stadium against the Crimson Tide?
Yeah, it's one of those things every year. And again, coaches will disagree with me as they do often. Most games in the other 10 games of the year, there's no such thing as a moral victory. But I always say in a game like this, there really is. And Chattanooga has a reputation of playing SEC teams. They've played Will Levis when he was a junior at Kentucky. They played at Illinois last year. They played LSU, obviously played Alabama before, played at South Carolina, played a lot of different places in the SEC. So I always think when you're an FCS team going up against a top 10, 8th ranked in the country Alabama team, goal number 1, and coaches disagree. So let me put that out. Coaches disagree. The first thing, you don't want to get embarrassed, because that is a possibility of just getting embarrassed, like you don't know how to play the game. So I think once you get past that, the game's kind of gets going and you hang around a little bit. So everyone wants to play in this game because most of the players on this level, or at least a lot of them, think, well, I should be playing in the SEC. I was overlooked. This is a chance for me to show myself. And some of those guys that have aspirations to go NFL, they get a chance to get some tape against an SEC team. And that has been important for other guys. Cole Strange is an offensive lineman for the New England Patriots. That was important to him. Davis Tall was drafted by the New Orleans Saints, and we played Tennessee at that his senior year. And he said, you know what? Just for me to go against an SEC team is important. So I think everyone looks at the opportunity, and there's some awe power. There's no question about that. When you go into, especially in Bryant-Denny Stadium with all the tradition and everything else. So I think all those things, just, most of those guys have not been on the field at Bryant-Denny before or played in front of 100,000 plus before. They all think that they all want to have something to prove. And many of them want to get some tape of going against an SEC opponent and competing.
Well, JR, we look forward to Saturday having you and the Mocs in town. Just thank you so much for your time with us here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Safe travels. We'll see you at Bryant-Denny Stadium on Saturday. Thank you.
I expect the red carpet treatment from you, Roger. You know that.
Crimson carpet. We'll have it for you.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
The 2024 Daytona 500 is right around the corner, and you won't want to miss this once-in-a-lifetime experience. Bring the whole family and purchase your tickets today at Daytona500.com. Well, I know everyone's getting ready for Crimson Tide football on Saturday against Chattanooga, but before that, we have some great opportunities at Coleman Coliseum for you to enjoy Alabama basketball. Again, the women's basketball team tonight against USF, the men's team tomorrow against Mercer. We will have our courtside cams up and running. Ray Robertson will call the women's game for us tonight, as well as Chris Stewart, Brian Passing, Tom Stipe back to work coming up tomorrow for men's basketball against Mercer. They were on the call for Alabama's win earlier this week against South Alabama. We had a lot of fun with the courtside cam, and let's take a look back now at some of the highlights from that win for Alabama getting over 100 points again against South Alabama.
The ball goes up. The tap is controlled in the backcourt to our left by the Jags, and we are underway. Wagee with it inside, whips a pass back out. Griffin, open three, bottom. Steal by Wagee, brings it front court to Griffin. Ryland on the drive, stepping through, laying it up and in, and the Tide leads by 11. Timeout, Jaguars. Sears hesitates, cut off, backs it out beyond the arc. Plays off a screen from Nelson. Nice look inside. Graham Slater, no, but the flush is good by Pringle. Trell on the drive himself, cut off. Out to Nelson, around to Sears. Catch and shoot, three, bottom.
You just knew that was going in. Great basketball defense leading to offense. The extra pass from Grant Nelson. Mark Sears in rhythm.
Diabate calling for a screen, gets one from Walters. Dribbles to the left wing, reverses back to Sam. Catch and shoot, three, good. Two in a row. The left-hander's starting to heat up for the Crimson Tide. Looking for a screen, drives on his own, steps through, kicks it left side. Reitzel, three, bottom. Throwing darts right now, and Bama leads by 24 with 30 seconds remaining in the half. Nelson looking down low. Pringle the finish. Mercy. No doubter there.
This Alabama team so hard to guard because you have to stay connected to shooters on the perimeter.
Pringle again on the flush. The same look from Nelson as the previous trip.
And it's because of the shooters on the perimeter that have been hot. Alabama shooting close to 60% from the three-point line. That opens things up.
Now Gator driving in. Initiated the contact. The strip. Diving on the floor. Estrada. How about that? Up 31. Estrada. First on the floor for a loose ball. And almost turned it over, but a nice save. Wagee giving it back to Cosby. Dead on three. Bottom. Boy, that made that possession look a lot better than it started, didn't it?
Yeah, when you have great shooters that can spot up and knock down shots, that solves a lot of problems.
Muhammad trying to shake free, crosses over, goes down the lane, spins with left hand off the glass and in.
And that's one thing Little Mo could do. They call 6'7", 230-pound Mohamed Diabate Little Mo. How'd you like to be 6'7"? They call you Little Mo. Misses the free throw, but aggressive to the basket.
Down into the paint, reaching in, nearly taking it away. Nelson, then he hustles to the corner and blocks the shot attempt out of bounds on Judah Brown's look from three. What great effort. How rare is that, Brian? He almost got a jump ball. The pass goes from that guy to the corner, and he blocks that shot.
Effort, toughness. Don't look at the scoreboard. Play to a standard.
Back to Stevenson. Driving, stopping, looking, kicking it out. Cosby catch and shoot. Three, bottom. Here comes Cosby front court. Davin, nice. No look. Pass the flush for two by Wagee. Cosby will work to the top of the arc. Stevenson, three, bottom. Gets it into the paint, gets it down the lane, had it blocked. Picked up inside, Skardowski, the bucket, and a chance for the and one. Max Skardowski gives Bama 101. Nate Oates, Richie Riley shake hands. The buzzer sounds and strike up the band. To 46, your final score. Alabama a winner.
Can't wait to be back inside Coleman Coliseum for a lot of fun with women's and men's basketball over the next 2 nights, as it's time to take a look at what's coming up on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. And our upcoming schedule is always brought to you by Wickles Pickles. They are wickedly delicious. We have the relish with us today on set here in Tuscaloosa. So many more great products are available at wicklespickles.com. They are wickedly delicious. Let's see what's coming up across the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Well, as I mentioned, later tonight it will be busy, not just with women's basketball again at 6 p.m. against South Florida. Gary Robertson will call that for us coming up on the network. We will have the Courtside cam up and running, as well as Hey Coach. Hey Coach and the Nick Saban Show with Eli Gold will start at 6:30 at Baumhauer's in Tuscaloosa. Tomorrow night it will be Alabama men's basketball, a 6 p.m. airtime for the 7 p.m. start time against Mercer, and again a Courtside cam available for that as well here on our social media platforms. Then we'll have the Royal Furniture booth cam up and running on Saturday for the 11 o'clock start time against Chattanooga. We will hit the radio at 8 a.m. with all of our pregame coverage across the radio network and the Varsity Network app, as well as the booth cam. Then on Sunday, we'll review the Chattanooga game with the Nick Saban television show as he and Chris Stewart will break down the Alabama UTC game, start to look ahead to the Iron Bowl. Women's basketball will be on the road against Little Rock as well, coming up at 1 p.m. And then on Monday, it'll be Crimson Tide Rewind, getting you set for the Iron Bowl. That will be the following weekend. One other programming note coming up next week on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Just one edition with the Thanksgiving holiday. We'll have that for you at 2 o'clock coming up on Tuesday afternoon. So we hope you can join us for our preview of the Iron Bowl then. But that is your upcoming schedule, and it's brought to you by Wickles Pickles. And that's going to wrap up this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. A really fun show getting you ready for Alabama against Chattanooga. Thanks to our guests Seth McLaughlin, as well as Eli Gold and Jim Reynolds for all of their time. Thanks to our producer Ethan Carabin for putting this entire show together as well. For everybody with the Crimson Tide Sports Network, this is Roger Hoover saying thank you for watching. Let's enjoy some Alabama basketball and football over the next few days here in Tuscaloosa. Until then, have a great start to your weekend and roll Tide, everyone.